What is up, using HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys today with a discussion video to talk about a forgotten archetype of the wind, Mist Valley. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, wait, yeah, whatever happened to the Mist Valley? And it's crazy because we just recently seen a Mist Valley monster appear in the Ice Barrier archetype of all things. There's a major history lesson with the Mist Valley, and it definitely is going to be a long video, so I just wanted to let you guys know that now. But I've been doing this thing where I've been looking at other archetypes and wondering, where did the support go? Why aren't they getting support? And is a certain particular thing being the issue it hasn't gotten support? Or is there more to it and we're just not seeing it? I think Divine Wind of the Mist Valley, Apex Avian, and even Mist Valley Thunderbird have to all be looked at for this. And I think the real thing to discuss here is, are they the reason why? Or is there more underlying stuff that we just don't know about? Well, let's definitely take a look into this because I love Mist Valley. Mist Valley was one of the major archetypes I used when I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And more of the competitive scene. And it's crazy to say that because competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time I came back was, well, synchro focused. I mean, there was a couple of fusions here and there, but they were focusing on synchros. And most of your extra deck, as it was now being called, focused on synchro summoning. Mist Valley was the first of the archetypes for the wind attribute to focus its tuners being Wind Winged Beast, which did help out my Harpies because there was a few of them that were really good and definitely helped out. Primarily the ones I focused on were Mist Valley Soldier and Mist Valley Shaman, a level 3 and a level 4. There is a level 2 in Mist Valley Baby Rock, and then they had some really good utility monsters like Mist Valley Apex Avian, Mist Valley Thunderbird, and Mist Valley Falcon. Now, throughout the years that the Hidden Arsenals came out, Hidden Arsenals 1 and Hidden Arsenal 2, I will say this, and a lot of people will agree with me, is that the history of Mist Valley kind of is the reason why we have the other wind attributed archetypes in Dual Terminal. We saw the Dragoonity, we saw the Dragoonity, the Gusto, the Ritual Beast, all and the Ritual Beast, and they all extended from what was given to them by the Mist Valley, because the Mist Valley was one of the four tribes that started Dual Terminal. Even though yes, there are six attributes that started in Dual Terminal, the other two were, well, the light attribute, which invaded the planet, the worms, the dark attribute, which is the ally of justice, creatures created of machine and mechanical parts used by the Mist Valley, the wind attribute, Flame Veil, the fire attribute, Ice Barrier, the ice attribute, and X Saber, the earth attribute. Now, as the story itself begins, is what I'm going to cut very short, but Mist Valley, X Saber, Flame Veil, and Ice Barrier created an alliance to help deal with the worm situation. After a while, the Mist Valley got a little cocky, said we can handle this on our own, and disbanded from the alliance, only to then be rescued by the alliance because the worms end up invading the Mist Valley and trying to take it over. Even though they weren't as graceful as they should have been, the eventual results of what happened to Mist Valley basically became, it was ended up having to be torn. It was torn apart by the war. The Dragoonity salvaged what they could because they were the descendants of the Mist Valley. While there were other descendants of Mist Valley that stretched on, because if you notice the symbol of the Mist Valley, which is a fan, or the petals of a fan, or the wheel, the fan itself, and like its petals swishing. You see it on some of the Gusto monsters as some of their symbols as well, meaning that these are descendants of it. And most of the bird-esque people that are formed from the Dragoonity were those who are descendants as well from the Mist Valley. You get a whole big storyline from the Ritual Beast as well as some of the Gusto, because Winnie the Wind Charmer is a Gusto. And funny enough, with the events of what happened with the Shaddolls, you see more of a extension of why she has become a charmer and she's focusing on magic. Unfortunately, that befalls on the fate of her friend Arya, the water charmer, who herself faced a similar situation where her family from the Gishki, some of the Gishki monsters ended up being enveloped by that of the eel swarm virus, and while some of them became part of the I should remember this, the evil swarm, she ended up branching into also being infected and then becoming part of Shadal. So there's a lot to unpack there. And even through that situation, the dual terminal tells stories and it tells them well, and even branching into other archetypes. Now, in terms of the game in terms of the card game, which I know many of you are here for, the biggest thing that focused with Miss Valley was their field spell, Divine Wind. And I think it's crazy though, because even after all these years, CCG has not unlimited Divine Wind of the Mist Valley, but the OCG has. So what was particularly about this field spell that made everybody go crazy? Well, Divine Wind of the Mist Valley is a field spell that specifically states that when a wind monster you control is returned to the hand, you can special summon a level 4 or lower wind monster to the field. It is not a once per turn effect, or, well, it's a once per turn effect, but it's not a hard once per turn. If you don't know what that statement means, it's basically that if the card does not state that you can only use this effect of insert card's name here once per turn, then that means you can use it multiple times, or multiple copies of it multiple times. Being as if why this card itself ended up being limited. Back in 2013, there was the release of a V-Jump promo in the OCG by the name of Harpie Dancer. Harpie Dancer's ability is that when she is on the field, you can select any wind monster you control and return it to the hand, and then gain an additional normal summoner set of a wind monster this turn. That's right, you have a combo piece right there. And because of this combo piece, many people used it in conjunction with the newer Harpie support that came out in Water Tachyon Galaxy. Basically, climbing yourself through various normal summons, popping their field spell, and going into other variation copies of Divine Wind, going into Black Garden, and then going into Fusion Gate, setting up the field to where you would use the monster known as Bombardment Phoenix, the um, Demolition Bird. I believe that's its name, don't quote me on that. But using its ability of when it is special summoned, you can inflict damage to your opponent by 300 for every monster that's on the field. Multiple summons of this monster, because it can include itself as material, because it is a pyro monster. And its requirements are a pyro and a machine monster. As long as you had enough of the monsters used for the requirements, thanks to Fusion Gate's ability, you were able to burn your opponent for game. And you had to go through a almost 30 combo step just to do this, involving both the G-Nex ally monsters, the Harpies, the elemental heroes, that's right, the E-heroes, the Signer Dragons of Ancient Fairy Dragon and Power Tool Dragon, G-Nex Ally Birdman, G-Nex Ally Axel, various spell cards, and various setup cards as well, and even Summoner Monk too. It was a big pile of cards, basically, and it was probably one of the last combinations of pile-ups that we've seen to the modern era, where we see a lot of these 60 pile decks and stuff running rampant, because they have so many accesses to different toolboxes, which eventually what was that there, a massive amount of toolboxes conducted off of the summoning capabilities of one monster. So because of this, in September of 2013, when the TCG and OCG split their Forbidden Limited list, uh, Well, a lot of those cards for the Harpie Dancer FTK got hit automatically. While some got banned, some of them got limited. And the only one that was not affected was Harpie Dancer because, well, her effect was already on a heart once per turn. So you can use multiple dancers in that same turn. So you have to turn to all the other monsters that were attached to her, such as G-Nex Ally Birdman, Elemental Hero Stratos, Ancient Fairy Dragon, Divine Wind of Mist Valley, which all were affected by it. Later on in the years, they ended up bringing back Elemental Hero Stratos and even Birdman to multiple statuses. But Ancient Fairy Dragon had to have an errata on her because why? Ancient Fairy Dragon has an ability where she can blow up a field spell on the field, any player's field spell, increase your life points by 1,000 and allow you to search your deck for another copy of it. But also, in the same instance, once a turn, she can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your hand. Meaning, you can go get a tuner or something, use Divine Wind, play around with it, bam, new monster. And because of this situation, well, you see kind of where I kind of get with this, right? Yeah, it was a lot of crazy shenanigans with this, and because of these crazy shenanigans, they had to end up banning Ancient Fairy Dragon because generic field spell searching became an issue. Even that in terraforming being limited. Then they unlimited terraforming. They limited terraforming in TCG, and then ended up unbanning Metaverse, which was a variation of it in its extension. It's a crazy scenario with that. But it begs you to get a question: damn, was Miss Valley, was Divine Wind of Miss Valley really that much of an issue? And yeah, it was. We created an FTK that definitely burnt your opponent for life points. Whether it was the OTK strategy of just summoning big monsters and taking out your opponent, or just sitting on these monsters to fusion summon to burn your opponent to death. There was also the latches that I haven't talked about, and that's Miss Valley Apex Avian, the main deck boss monster, and its little counterpart, Miss Valley Thunderbird. So when Thunderbird and Avian came out, a lot of people looked at it as a way of making a loop where Miss Valley Apex Avian's effect says you return any Miss Valley card on your field back to your hand, and if you do, negate the activation of a spell trap or monster effect per chain. In addition to this, you had Miss Valley Thunderbird, who states that you can special summon when this card is returned to the hand. You special summon this card from your hand, and it is not a once per turn. So, because of this created another synergy of loop called the Avian Loop. And this branch of Avian Loop was also enhanced by Link Summoning. And I know many of you are saying, really? There were Link monsters that helped with this? Yes, there was. And there was a legit archetype called Tri-Brigade, a series of the Beast family monsters. Beast Warrior, Wingy Beast, and Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast. And their whole gimmick was Link summoning, using monsters in the graveyard to then summon Link monsters from the extra deck. Now, in that same time frame, we were also introduced to Samorg, the Bird of Sovereignty, a new addition to the Samorg archetype that after 10 years got a major wave of archetype support and actually became its own archetype as of 2019. Now, the whole gimmick of these monsters was that you were able to special summon multiple variants of themselves to the board and utilizing their ability. While this monster, Samorg the Bird of Sovereignty, didn't come out till about a few months later, Samorg's whole scenario was, thanks to the Link's Reign Pack 3, was an extension of the archetype that was definitely needed to help them out during, pre Master Rule 4 changes. Because once Master Rule 4 changed, everybody can, exceed, synchro, and link summon. Exceed, synchro, and fusion summon in the monster zones like normal. Just that, Pendulum and Link monsters still needed Link monsters and stuff to help with that situation. Because that shit was getting too crazy. Anyway, the whole array of that was that there were two monsters that came out of this. One was Samorg, and the other was Union Carrier, a Link to Light Attribute Machine monster that can select any monster on your side of the field, and then equip a monster from your deck to it, and give that monster 1,000 attack points. Because of this combination, you would basically, in phase, Samorg, Bird of Sovereignty, summon Miss Valley Apex Avian. Then use Union Carrier's effect to then search out for Miss Valley Thunderbird. Equip it to Miss Valley Apex Avian, and during your opponent's turn, when they would start activating effects, you would activate Avian to bounce back the Thunderbird, to add it to your hand to then negate the card's effect, the activation of the card, and then touch summon the Thunderbird and creating its loop. There was also some old school loops with like Avion and the Jutsu art cards, the Jutsu art transformation, tribute off a ninja, summon the Thunderbird, or summon like some more monsters as well that were able to be summoned. Because ninjas can do that. So all this generated was basically lockouts, negations, and crazy things. So it makes you wonder, well, who really is at fault for Miss Valley not getting the support? Do you look at Konami and say the storyline that they quickly ended to just push in more wind monsters? Do you say that because of how Avion and Thunderbird's loops worked that they had to stop them? Because remember, the TCG has some more Bird or Sovereignty and Union Carrier banned. The LCG didn't ban some more Bird or Sovereignty. And then while in conjunction of it, you also look at the fact that a lot of decks that are trying to circumvent the wind attribute is using Harpie's Featherstorm, which I've already made a video about that, so we're not going there. But has these hindrances really stopped Miss Valley from really getting new support? Or are they just okay with the storyline of that in which Miss Valley have disbanded and gone into different ways and now their descendants are flourishing? I really can't say, but I'll be very honest with you. If X Saber can get new support, why not Miss Valley? Because we've seen Ice Bear get new support. We've seen, you know, X Saber get new support. Flame Veil gets support because they're fire monsters, and fire gets support every other goddamn time. Especially with these last 2 years, 2023 to 2025, we've seen fire get a major wave of support. And then the only other ones left is, well, the dark attributed machines. Do I really need to go there with that? So basically, Worm would be the next thing. And I don't know what they would really do with Worm, but Worm is Reptile, and Reptile gets a wave of support every other time, too. So with reprints of Snake Rain, and then that whole Abyssal archetype, because I'm not using the TCG name, it's ugly as fuck. Honestly, yeah, where's the support for Miss Valley? Was Miss Valley's combos and stuff really that bad that we couldn't get anything? Because I'll be honest with you, I'd love to see Miss Valley get some support. Even if that means an extension to help Harpie. And what would I want for Miss Valley? Well, let's bring some more tuners into the fray. Let's bring some more synchro monsters. Hell, give them a Link monster. Give them an Xyz monster. Give them some more support that helps them into what you wanted them to be, which was an archetype that loves to bounce things like crazy. And just make sure that you don't, outshine things that are currently out or find ways around it to where things aren't OP as fuck. Give them some hard once per turn so that people can't loop them. And then basically have a creation that can stand on its own. I just like to see it that even if it's not a competitive deck, I at least want it to be something congruent, similar to that of what happened with Crystal Beast. Crystal Beast got an entire structure deck, and did it break them? For a short period of time. But it was allowing them to be something. We seen that with, Gate Guardian getting support for the TCG exclusive, and that Maze Millennium set, and then turn around and here's Shopkicks getting a whole structure deck, bringing them back from the grave. So why not? Give that handout to Miss Valley, especially because they do deserve it. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about, the Miss Valley. Who really did hurt Miss Valley? What things can be said about Miss Valley? Can anything be said for the Miss Valley? Or is it just time to let the winds blow and let the valley itself carry on its new life within the forms of the other wind monsters that extracted from it? Because I'll be honest with you, Gusto doesn't need new support. Gusto needs an errata so that TCG so we can play with the cards that are meant to be played with. Because I hate how they were ruled and how that whole situation because of one word. But let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. You know where the links and stuff are, and I'll catch you next time. HBJ signing out. Take care. Bye bye.